Well, that's yeah. Well, I mean, I'm sure it's been done, but it ain't
I'm sure it has
easy.
too.
Let's go
I would
ahead
try
and.
Kazakhstan myself. Just saying.
Oh well, God, the women there, holy crap, they're beautiful. It's like not unusual for them to be like 6 feet tall, startling purple eyes. They're all like models. It's insane. Let's bring in Angie Wong. Angie Wong
Howdy.
is my former co-host on the Final Countdown, and hopefully, maybe I don't know if she has any dating experiences from Central Asia or Afghanistan. She is also the Republican Executive Committee woman for District 17 in the great state of Florida.
How do I follow that? Like 6 foot tall supermodels. It's like, okay,
Kazakh
well,
girls.
hi,
Oh my
I'm here.
God.
This is me. Yeah, no, hi guys. Nice hearing your voices again. It's so nice. It's been a while, Ted. I realize it's like I used to have your voice in my ear every single morning as I'm, waking up doing the news with you. I'm like, wow, it's like home. So thank you for having me on.
Oh, thank you for being here.
Oh,
sorry.
Wait,
about that.
you got all the polka dots in the back now. This is a new background.
Yeah, we're trying to spice it up. That was the dots are are Manila's doing. And Manila's out. I don't know if you've heard, but she has pleurisy and pneumonia.
No.
Yeah, good times. So, but apparently
geez.
We talked to her yesterday, and she's seems to have turned the corner after over a week of medical system nonsense. So, hey, before we ask you about today's topic, we wanted to talk about the differences between Trump's first term and second term, like what we're likely to see, what will be the same, what will be different, any modifications, what he's learned, and how his team will differ, and all that. Which I'm dying to, but I'm going to put you on the spot. So, what do you think of Luigi Mangione and the alleged shooter of the United Healthcare CEO, Brian Thompson? I mean, obviously, this is a national. Everyone's talking about it.
It is, and it's really funny how we live in parallel news universes, because when I first heard this story, I'm thinking, oh, another New York City shooting. Okay, I mean, Ted and I are both from New York City, so this stuff happens every 30 minutes, right? And I thought, okay, yeah, this guy's dead, and it was not that it was a random shooting. But then my daughter, who is in middle school, she questions me about it and how it's justified that he was shot. And I'm like, what's like the school that I'm paying way too much money for?
Your daughter.
Right? Going on and on about this, and she's telling me that I'm wrong, and that everyone needs to have health care, and you don't have to beg for your premiums to kick in and for service to be paid. You're already paying for services. They're just not writing the checks, right? And it leaves a lot of people in pain, et cetera, et cetera. Look, ultimately, I have to say, killing is just wrong. My husband luckily backed me up and said, "Oh, you can do it other ways. You could sue them, and you could be a congresswoman, or you could do whatever else." But we all know those are like long-term pathways to change laws and find justice, right? If your back is hurting and you're completely crippled, because like the suspect here, he was apparently in a lot of pain. He couldn't have sex. He couldn't do normal functioning things, and it drove him crazy. Getting older now, I completely understand what that means, right? Like, I'm like, yeah, there are days where I'm like, ooh, maybe I can't, lift the 250 pounds I used to lift. Never happened. But, like, it just like, I get what's going on. So, if this is a catalyst for change, man, this is weird. But it's only weird because it's happening in the USA. It's happening in Manhattan. If this happened outside of our country, this happens all the time. This kind of what I guess you would call social justice. But ultimately, look, I had to teach my kids killing is just not the answer as much as you want this
Obviously.
person dead.
Yep.
It's just, you don't go about it that way. Maybe I shouldn't say this, but I'm like, you should have shot him in the foot or like give him a warning shot. Do it like the gangs do it.
I mean, that is an interesting point. What would have happened if he hadn't died?
Right. Because he's a man in charge. He's a man in power. He can change those rules. And I'm not saying, I understand that's a threat and it's violence, but I'm just,
Although ironically, I'm not even kidding. he was taken to a hospital that was recently kicked out of the United Healthcare Network. He was taken to Mount Sinai. The entire Mount Sinai group, as you know, is most of the big hospitals in New York, in Manhattan now.
Yeah.
He was taken over to the West Side. It used to be called New York Hospital, the Mount Sinai Hospital near Columbus Circle. And so if he had lived, he would have been out of network.
He would have been out of network. Yeah, he would have had to pay. Look, what I don't want is for this to be the answer for other social justice causes, right?
Mhm.
There's plenty. We're all frustrated. I could talk about insurance all day long. I mean, I pay more in insurance per month than I do pay for my car payments every month. That's how crazy it's gotten.
Yeah.
People trying to buy their first homes, second homes, whatnot. You can't do it anymore because the insurance premiums are so crazy that you would never buy a home over $1 million or, even $500,000. You'd have to take out multiple policies just to cover your house. We can go on and on about insurance. That's got to get fixed. And I'm hoping that Congress will wake up to this, because we've allowed the capital markets to supersede just human kindness and taking care of each other. I get that. I'm not a social warrior. I'm not a justice warrior, but I do think that it's completely out of hand at this point, and we've let it go way too long. And that is our lawmakers.
I mean, the temperature on the. Oh, go ahead, Ted.
I was going to say, I mean, yeah, I wrote about this in a column this week. I think obviously I favor Medicare for all, but we're not going to get that anytime soon. So, I mean, as a reform, I'm suggesting that Congress say, first of all in network should never be denied. If a doctor who's in network is prescribing stuff that the company doesn't like, they should take it up with a doctor, kick them out of their network. But that shouldn't be the patient's problem. They're in network. Also, they should be required to keep those lists that they have online of all the doctors that are supposedly in network. They should keep those up to date. They don't. They're years out of date. When you call around, sometimes the doctors have died of old age, or they're retired, or they never took this health insurance, right? I mean, I'd say it's truth in advertising. If you tell me that Dr. Bob Smith is in network and I go see Dr. Bob Smith, you should pay me. I mean, I don't mean like he dropped out last week, but like, you know what I mean? Like, if you say this, then I should be able to count on that. That should be reliable. That should be your duty to keep that list up to date. It's to their advantage to keep it not up to date. I think Congress needs to make to regulate this industry. I don't think you need to regulate them out of profitability, but within, come on, guys, you're out of control.
Yeah, and this is all ultimately about a profit margin, right? I mean, they've been pushing everyone to telehealth. Yeah, I'm not really sure. I mean, if I stick out my tongue and show you my bruises, you're going to be able to diagnose that from a computer screen over Zoom? No, thank you. Right? I think there are just some industries you can't really go with that. I even see telehealth for pets now, which I think is hysterical. Because if you try putting a pet up there to the screen, hey, I don't know what this bump is.
Hey, if it's an option, honestly, for example, I get bronchitis all the time. I would love it if I could just go on telehealth and I don't have to drag my sick butt out to the doctor's office. And I can just say, hey, I just need can you just prescribe a Z-Pack? Great, done. So if it's my choice, that's fine. But if it's the insurance company saying, no, you don't get to see a doctor for your broken wrist, you have to do it from home, that's different. That's wrong.
Well, let me ask you, both of you, what do you think of, RFK Jr. coming in, completely revamping HHS? I mean, all of the stuff that we're talking about could be outdated in a month and a week.
I'm super excited about RFK. Look, I've been saying this to my liberal Democratic friends who are very upset with me because they're convinced that he's an insane anti-vax conspiracy. And that's just, I mean, but he's not. He and his kids are vaccinated. All he said is that that no vaccine is completely safe. That's true. That's science. I mean,
more than that, he's been funding a lot of anti-vax stuff, millions of dollars from his PAC, going into a lot of things that I would deem personally misinformation
Just
about
yesterday,
vaccines. And I'm not for vaccines, by the way. So,
well,
you know,
I
I've
don't
seen
have,
it.
and I don't have a dog in this fight either way. I'm not part of the vaccine wars, as you know from
Yes,
doing the
same.
show with me. And I also think it should be everybody's choice whether they want to get vaccinated or not. I don't think, I believe in bodily autonomy. I don't think, like to send your kids to school, if you don't want to get them vaccinated, you shouldn't have to. And I know that's not a popular opinion, but they should convince you to do that. Robbie, you had a question.
Yeah, well, I was just going to say, like, here in my neck of the woods, how people say, well, if you have a problem with your health insurance company, you sue them. Here where I live, I mean, the annual income is $30,000 a year.
Yeah.
You're not going to get a lawyer to go against Blue Cross Blue Shield
and their army of lawyers.
It's not going to happen. You will. One thing, you're going to find a doctor out here, a lawyer out here is going to do it. Second, even if you did, financially, you will get destroyed just by the legal fees. I mean, if the doctor bill is worth 5 years of your total income, it's not going to happen.
Right.
And here in Montana, I mean, about the Luigi, I mean, I'm out in the middle of nowhere. They're saying this dude did a public service homicide, and they're like flying. They're all for it. Like they're putting Luigi flags on the dashboard of their trucks. I mean,
I've seen signs that said it was that you can't charge Luigi because it was a victimless crime.
Huh?
There's wanted posters for other healthcare CEOs all over Manhattan now. Sort of like the Israeli hostage posters. They're like that format, but like with the pictures of the CEOs of various healthcare companies.
So really, what my concern is that eventually you're going to piss off the working class so much where you will start seeing this, and you're going to start seeing more fraying of society. You're going to start seeing more violence. And I'm just really hoping that Congress will actually listen, especially Trump. I mean, he got elected by the working class people.
I'm
hoping that he listens.
There. Let's talk about that, because that's what we brought Angie to talk about. So Angie, I mean, first of all, before we move on from this, do you think there's any appetite in the Republican-run House and Senate that's coming in on January 1st, and as well as from President-elect Trump, who is not beholden to anybody, is not running for re-election, is really freer, arguably, than any president-elect that I can think of in my life to do what he wants to do. I mean, everybody's got interests, everybody has donors, but he's free. Is there any appetite to reform, to finally do something to repeal and replace Obamacare, or tweak the system? I thought it was very interesting that Trump hasn't had anything to say about the killing of Brian Thompson allegedly by Luigi Mangione. He has had no comment. He reads the news. He follows social media. He knows how the American people feel. I mean, this is an opportunity for him to make a big splash. Will he?
Well, two things there that I'm going to point out. One, it's going to be very funny to you that he does read the news, but he doesn't have an actual search engine. Something about, yes, and it was told to me by someone who is in security. They don't do the search functions on various politicians' phones, including Trump's, because of the algorithms or how they grab all the data. Anyway, long story short, he gets sent the news. He gets an edited version sent to him by his team.
A digest.
Right. A brief of everything. Yeah. So that skews his thinking. Not that he hasn't heard of the story. I'm sure he has. And secondly, you may find this weird. I was just doing the math on what the 119th Congress is going to look like come January 2nd and 3rd when they're sworn in. Mm-hmm. Well, we're actually missing 3 seats. So right now, Republicans hold the stronghold, 3 seats in, except, well, let's see, we've got Elise Stefanik and Mike Waltz and Matt Gaetz missing. So do we really have a majority for 3 months until their special elections are held? I believe their congressional staffers are doing stuff, but do they have voting powers? I don't believe they do, right? Because they're not getting sworn in. So
No.
I don't know. All right, so we might actually be even Stevens in the House for the first 3 months until April 1st, at least here in Florida, when they hold their special elections for the next congressional member. I believe I have my facts right on that.
Wow, that's
Trump,
fascinating.
well, Trump may not have the first 3 months to pass things, right? All you need is one, congressional member on the Republican side to have what Manila has and sneeze, and then they stay home, right? And all of a sudden, Hakeem Jeffries becomes a very, very important person, right? So I think about that. And I think about also the news cycle for Trump, because we've said this, I've been talking about this before, and I think I said it on your previous show, Trump's going to get in trouble again because everyone's looking for something. So he's got to push through his agenda in the first 100 days, like really, really jam it through in every single department, because with him, trouble's around the corner and he may not get through something, somewhere down the line. So there's
But he can't be prosecuted while he's in office, right? I mean,
no, I don't necessarily mean that. I just mean something. There's going to be a trip up, as like in any White House, right? And I think he's got the right disciples to push through the entire Trump agenda. I think he has really, really good people on. I know there's a lot of negative talk about certain cabinet picks. I'll leave it to the Senate hearing. I don't really know every single person there, but I think he knows what he's doing this time around. He's purposely skipping the GSM office entirely. Sorry, is it the GSM or is it the GAO office where the transition team, where the government pays for the transition? I forget. I get my acronyms wrong sometimes. Well, whatever that transition team within the White House is, he's like, no, thanks. I don't need your money. He's doing everything at Mar-a-Lago and in his Trump Towers, right? To do it behind closed doors. So there's no leaks. There's no that person's getting in. There's going to be a lot of surprises and a lot of protocols, because he understands there's going to be speed bumps along the way. Susie Wiles is doing a fantastic job clearing any sort of drama, any sort of speed bumps, and making sure that on day one, things are going to get done. So you're going to see a lot.
Right?
She's running the country, guys. I mean, I love that she is. I think she's so bright. She understands all the politics behind the scenes, and she doesn't listen to, the normal kiss-assers, right? She actually can see through people. I mean, she's got those super powered eyes that can see through all the BS in politics. So I love her. I love that she could do it. So she's going to get it done. And she knows where the riffraff slide. Look, she's been very good at keeping the clown car out of the White House so far, right? And I know I've completely skirted your question, Ted, but I will tell you that I really feel like this team is going to make things fly, because unlike the first administration, when Trump was trying to do the Washingtonian thing, he was doing the Hollywood version of Washington and the White House, right? This time around, he's like, I'm playing it my way. You tried to trip me up last time. You got all my people dirtied up. I'm kicking you all out. And that's what we're seeing. We're seeing the very first administration and the players in the first administration not welcomed back in. Look, Ted, you and I, we covered most of Trump's lawfare all of last year, right?
All gone.
Have you seen, other than Peter Navarro, I don't really see any of those guys making their way back into the next administration.
Yeah, the closest that we have to swamp creatures in a big way now, I think, Robbie, you might argue with me, is Rubio, and possibly if DeSantis comes in. But those are still not. Well, DeSantis is not a Washington swamp.
Rubio is in my book. He is.
He is. He's from my district here, and I'm not my district, but he's from Miami, and I like him. He played the game well, and he's a really, really smart, charming guy, and very funny. So maybe I like him based on personality. I don't know him as a swamp creature. And do you mean that he's like a neocon, or what do you like? What has he done that makes you think he's this guy?
For me, it's a neocon, because whenever I'm looking at things here in Middle America, where I am, I'm in flyover country, right?
Yep.
So if you have someone that's concerned about we have to turn Palestine into a glass plate, let's drag this thing off in Ukraine for another 20 years, whatever, because he's all on it, right? Whereas I'm looking here and I see that Montana has the highest suicide rate in the country. The borders are wide open. The life expectancy is going down. Why, Mr. Rubio, are you not concerned about the people here? Where are you?
Well, okay. I mean, and maybe that's not his job, right? As Secretary of State. I mean, I think there's a lot.
But is as a senator of Florida, right?
Sure, absolutely. And again, he's kept very quiet because I think he knew that he was going to get a position in, back then a possible Trump White House. So he was playing it safe. Um, I don't have a good answer for that because I didn't follow his career as closely as others. But I think his whole thing is, trying to make world peace, and he's got to make it right with Russia and Ukraine and Israel and the whole Gaza Strip. That's his hotspot, as well as everything happening in China and Japan, and he's got a big world to take care of. I don't know. I think he's got a lot of he's forming a really good team. That's what it feels like anyway. A lot of young blood. Again, the number one requirement to be part of the next Trump administration is that you cannot be a lobbyist, right? You can't be a Washington insider. That's why this guy Pete Hegseth, that most people don't even know about. He's covered politics, he's covered Washington, but he's never been an insider. He doesn't want to graduate to be the next CEO of Boeing, right? He comes in from a very, very different perspective. And I think that's what, is the motivating factor to hire these guys.
So we have a viewer question from Adrian. Do you think that Tulsi and RFK Jr. will get confirmed? Like, will the Republicans confirm them? Will the Senate hire them?
I think Tulsi, because she has the chops for it. And I just, just because she worshiped some leader back in the day. I mean, like, I worship Debbie Gibson and New Kids on the Block. Am I going to get faulted for that in the Senate hearing? I don't know. I mean, are they Democrats? Maybe they are. I have no idea. Right. So, yeah, I mean, you do stupid stuff like get a tramp stamp on your back of like corn. I don't have one anymore, by the way.
As long as she doesn't have an Assad tramp stamp.
Like, I mean, we get fooled when you're young. Like, I was a foolish young, I don't think I was ever a real Democrat, but like, when you're brought up in New York City, that's like, that's where you go.
Was that a strategy? I mean, is there strategy like this was a youthful indiscretion or?
I don't know what her strategy is going to be. I think she can hold her own. She was able to debate Kamala Harris back in the day. She's been on stage. She knows how to answer these questions clearly because the media is already feeding her.
She's very smart.
Yeah, she's going to be able to dance all over this. She's staying very quiet and out of sight until that happens. I think RFK Jr. is going to have a harder time, actually.
That worries me because he's absolutely my favorite appointee. I mean, even if Donald Trump messes up 6 ways till Sunday, if Trump keeps his promise to let RFK bring in EU-style food safety protocols for getting rid of preservatives in our food, it's going to save tens of millions of American lives. It's going to be it's a massive game changer. It's going to improve our quality of life as a people immeasurably. So I mean, we really, frankly, we need. It's as important for him to get in as it would have been important for climate change for Al Gore to win the 2000 election. We need RFK Jr. to be HHS head. We do.
I agree with you, Ted, and I like a lot of things that he's saying and doing. But here's the problem: it's all the things that he's saying and doing in advance of his Senate hearing. He's not staying quiet. He's pushing his agenda. He's stealing the limelight from Trump a little bit, especially early on. I don't know if you remember, he was told to stay a little bit more quiet. And now he's letting his game plan, his attack plan, out of the bag. So the Senate really knows how to attack him with it if they wanted to. I'm not saying they do, but he could. And honestly, what he's now doing
he could stick a falcon on them. He could bring his falcon to the hearing.
He could.
He's a falconer.
Okay. I mean, I'm sure he's gonna. What scares me about all this is his Hollywood angle to all this. He's got a full PR team, a full press team pushing through all this stuff. I don't think this is the right moment to do that, or maybe it is. I don't know. I don't know what his game. Maybe his plan is: if I don't get appointed, I'll win a different way, which is I'll get all the publicity from it. I don't know what his strategy ultimately is. You're going to see a lot of the anti-vax stuff come around. You're going to see payments from his PAC go to a lot of rogue groups. I mean, if I know this stuff and I'm just like, a stay-at-home mom, then certainly Congress knows about this stuff, right? And you're going to see a lot of the weird stuff that's been happening. His wife is hawking candles and fragrances, like with the Maha logo. There's a level.
Well, I hope it's not
there's
like
a
the
level.
same kind of. I hope it's not the same candle that Gwyneth Paltrow is kind of famous for hawking.
Oh no. Or even Donald Trump's doing it. It's a big farce. But like, you can't, you got to take this stuff really seriously. I like what he's saying. I like, taking out the regular Coca-Cola formula and putting in cane sugar, like, Mexican Coke. I like, removing preservatives and things, but understand he's going after big boy industries, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And and they've got their pocketbooks open for every single senator.
Well, how owned is Donald J. Trump now? Is
That's a good question.
Is my characterization wrong? Is he really not all that free?
When you're a politician, you're never truly free. But in Donald Trump's case, because he doesn't really need their money, right? He needs other things. He needs his pathway to be cleared.
Right.
So I'm trying to figure out who would block his pathway. Well, maybe John Thune, right? He realized with the Matt Gaetz debacle that he doesn't really have the Senate. He kind of has the Senate, but he doesn't really have it. So he's got to play very nicely there and keep that very, very clean. Whenever he gives assignments to his VP and his surrogates, that's when I know that he can't touch it, right? This is not a great example so like Daniel Penny, right? He just got invited by JD Vance to go to the Army Navy game in upstate New York. I think it's in upstate New York. I've been to one before. I think they have it there every year. Why couldn't Trump do that, right? There's like things that you think, oh, well, President Trump should have done that, and he's going to the game. So what happened there? I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of that kind of stuff happening that I'm just reading between the lines. Ultimately, what I love about Trump is he's learned a lot in his life, finally, because he's like close to 80. I'm happy he's learned a few things. But I think one of the lessons that I take away from what I see different in him is that he no longer fires people. He benches people. He may sideline you, but he also realized you've got a little bit of political capital left. You may make a comeback, so I can't really destroy you. I'm just going to put you over here in, let's say, Georgia, right? And go hang out there.
I mean, in all kidding, this man had 2 near-death experiences, or 1.5, depending on how you count them, in the last year. I mean, that can change a person. It can mellow you out. A lot of people have said that he seems more somber, more steady, more serious. Perhaps more aware of his mortality, as we all are as we're getting older. Do you think that's true?
Well, one, if you're getting shot at, yeah, 1. 2, he's got a great political wife in Susie Wiles. 3, they've identified all the problem zones that was in his first administration, right? They now know who they were. And in a way that I probably wouldn't be able to say on air, but certainly the Trump team would know who the problem areas are. And they've been very, very good at keeping the problem areas out of the next administration. Now, will there be other problems? 100%. Are there going to be second and third waves of hires and appointees? Of course, and that's just, because anyone who's worked with Trump, they know it's chaotic. And being in government already is chaotic, but double time with, a Trump administration, it's going to be wacky, right? And in a good way, if you can keep up with the pressure, but a lot of people can't. And I think that's what you're seeing. That might be what you can predict anyway, not seeing. But ultimately, all these guys can hold their own. What I love is that everyone that he's chosen, they're like media powerhouses on their own, right? But they've all quieted down. They've all, except for RFK Jr., but like they've pretty much like they're just waiting now, like waiting to go on day one. I think they're going to do a fantastic job. They're going to have amazing futures. And I think that's what he wants. He wants a full legacy of America first. And he may get that for a few cycles. We're going to see. But reading reports from Hakeem Jeffrey this morning, man, Democrats have a full attack for the midterms. And I'm laughing at it because I don't know if like they believe in their own gaslighting, but they really think like congressional seats in Miami are in play, which I just had a big chuckle at 5 a.m. looking at that stuff.
Angie, you're very good at this, better than I am. I mean, when I study that map, though, you tell me, I don't see a lot of opportunities 2 years from now for the Democrats.
Well, I see what they're doing. I see what Senator John Fetterman of Pennsylvania, he's in a truly purple state. He's got to play little MAGA, right? He can't go full socialist anymore, like what they've been doing for a long time. I really hope to God that AOC runs for president in 2028. In fact, I want to like donate to her now and get her, like really champion for that one, because it's going to be a bloodbath on that. Democrat,
I don't think she'll. I mean, she'd be a fool.
No, she's been teasing it. She's been talking about
it.
She
would be a fool. I mean, they always tease it, right? It's to build up the brand. I mean, the thing is, I mean, progressives are mad at her. I mean, and if she doesn't bring progressives to the dance, she's going home alone, right? I mean,
you can only fake it till you make it so much. The country went way too far left. Clearly, this was a referendum on the far left, right? I mean, I think we can agree on that in the autopsy of it. I mean,
of the woke left.
What's the difference?
Well,
maybe I don't know the difference.
There's the class war left, which that's me.
Class war left.
We're interested in economic issues, and then there's the woke left, which is all about like pronouns and who calls who what, and
so that's different.
Identity politics, yeah.
Okay.
So I have a question for you. Who is the heir to MAGA? Like, is it going to be J.D. Vance? Is it Vivek? Me personally, I'm a Vivek guy. I love the idea. I mean, when Trump is out in 4 years, who's going to carry the torch? Who is going to be the America First leader?
Oh, for Trump, for the Republicans?
Just for the movement in general. Like, if you are like, I'm a MAGA conservative, right? I'm not a Republican. The Republican Party left me years ago. I want our government to care about our borders the way they care about Ukraine's borders. I want the debt to be shrunk. I want government to be blown up. My biggest disappointment with Trump in the first term, I wanted him to go in and burn DC to the ground like the British did in 1812. That's me. That's what I want to have happen. Who is going to carry that banner for me? Like small government. I can't call myself a conservative. There's nothing I want to conserve right now. I want to start over. Who is going to carry that? Close the border, shrink the government, all about civil liberty, and screw NATO. Who is that guy for me?
Oh, well, Trump's going to do it. I mean,
but for 4 years.
He's already doing it. He's not even in office yet. He's already doing it, right? You have all the world leaders scared of him. You have the founders of Google dining with him at Mar-a-Lago. You have Mark Zuckerberg, on his knees. Like Jeff Bezos is meeting with him. I mean, it's all happening because, well, the fractures are there. They know a new change is coming. And this one's going to be drastic. Give him 100 days. He's going to get a lot done. Now, after him is what I'm interested in. Is it going to be Vivek? That's who I hope. I want Vivek.
I don't think Vivek has the riz for that.
Maybe he does, maybe he doesn't. But you're going to see how these guys now elevate and graduate into their roles, right? Trump has given them all a chance to be the next MAGA leaders. Yep. And it's really up to them now. It's like the Hunger Games. Like they have to fight to see who's going to rise above it all and do it with class and do it with a kind of a populist mindset, right? Some of them are way too extreme, even for me. Like I think I'm a MAGA Republican as well, but there are like some really, really, really like over the top ones that I'm like,
Trump really may be a singular figure, right? I mean, there's not many, a populist, working man's billionaire is not something that you get very often in America. The last time we saw one, he wasn't even a billionaire, was FDR, who was able to connect to the common man and woman. We haven't seen that. How do you replace well, maybe not replace, how do you build on someone like Trump? That remarkable, it's a remarkable personality and a remarkable package.
It is. And there's only one Trump. And there's a lot of self-made billionaires these days, right? And a lot of them come from very humble beginnings. Not to say Trump he's from Queens. He was born and raised in Jamaica Estates. So, I like
a very nice neighborhood. Yeah.
A very nice neighborhood, yes.
And his father was very wealthy.
But ultimately, he can sit at any lunch table. He can work, he can be a construction worker, a McDonald's worker, a garbage man. He could do all of that and be authentic. I mean,
Right.
I think so.
That's what I like about him.
Yeah. The Republican Party, as well as MAGA Republicans, we're all going to evolve as well. It never stays static. I've never seen politics stay static for a long time. We might be fine for the midterms, but come 2028, it's going to be another trend, because we've gotten so good at marketing to people, and I guess gaslighting is another word, to voters, that we can shape and twist and turn. And now that we've figured out the formula, which is what Elon Musk says, we are the media. Right? We shape the minds. We shape the appetite. We shape the environment that we're voting in. And when you can control that, and look at all the players involved here, Vivek, everyone's in tech.
Yep.
Then you see how much power is in that. So I'm not trying to skirt your answer.
What's going to happen with JD Vance?
JD Vance, again, he has to prove himself. Right now, he is,
will Donald Trump?
Unknown.
I mean, we saw what happened with the Democrats in this previous cycle, Angie, right? Where Kamala Harris, either rightly or wrongly, was sidelined by the Biden White House for 3 years, and basically we never heard hide nor hair of her until Joe dropped out, and she became the man. Right. And the point is, and that was the number one problem for her. Nobody knew who she was or what she'd done, because she hadn't done anything and nobody knew her. And so, and she wasn't really willing to open up like instantaneously, like Gerald Ford becoming president after Nixon, he was a very open guy, and like she didn't have that personality. Do you think Trump will allow? I mean, he didn't really give a lot of space to Mike Pence in his first term. But on the other hand, he didn't view Mike Pence as like simpatico, right? Mike Pence was useful because he balanced out the ticket, but it wasn't like he viewed him as like a common, sharing the same ideology. Do you think Trump will be willing to groom JD Vance, let him have a portfolio, let him have a brief? And we'll let you go after this question. Do you think he'll be able to, to let Vance shine and set him up for 28?
I have a feeling, and this is just my opinion, that Vance was not his first pick. I think that, like anything in Trump world, he decides 30 seconds before it happens. Ultimately, with your VP, you got to be BFFs with them. You're going to be spending 24/7 with this person, right? And I think JD Vance was chosen because of his sunshine personality. He's very warm, and he's smart. But as far as experience goes, he's a first term senator. He doesn't have that type of experience in government. So I think he's got to prove himself to Trump that he's been given the golden key. He could graduate as like the next heir, but he doesn't have the experience, and Trump needs to see that he can rise to the occasion, which I think JD Vance can. I think he's incredibly smart and calculated, that he could do it, but he's got to be proven, and not just to Trump ultimately, but to people like me, right? I'm keeping an open mind. I like him a lot, but I don't know anything about him. And that's the reality of things. And neither does the American public. And again, every single day, even this morning, the political winds have shifted. And will it be going this way or that way? So it's too soon to tell. But I mean, JD Vance has a secured future, 100%. It's whether or not he rises to the occasion to be the next MAGA king.
Right. Right now, he's not quite even a duke, but we'll see how that goes. Angie, thanks so much for joining us. Angie Wong is former co-host with me on the Final Countdown, and she's a Republican Executive Committee woman in District 17 in Florida, and a long-standing observer and sometimes insider in Republican politics. So, Angie, thank you so much for joining us.
Super smart lady.
Bye, guys. See you soon.
Bye.
All right. Bye.